The single most valuable skill that you can have is to be able to hold an interesting and engaging conversation, because if you can connect with those people to build trust, form relationships, then you can use it to change your life. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can up-level your life just by having conversations with lots of different people. Hi, my name is Emily and I help you become more confident with speaking. For me, I love talking. I love listening to other people's stories. It gives me lots of inspiration, lots of motivation, and I get to see lots of different things from other people's perspectives. But out of all of the conversations that I've had, I think the most interesting and engaging conversations are from the people who are the most genuine and the most down to earth. And those conversations are the most enjoyable. Just think about all of those embarrassing, boring, and socially awkward conversations that you've ever had. Now think about them, how much easier it would have been if you really enjoyed those conversations, if you actually liked being there, if you liked listening to the other person, if you enjoyed talking to them. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, but I think all conversations should be enjoyable and effortless. Today we'll dive into some practical tips to really think about and understand why some people are better at talking than others, how you can talk at work as comfortably as you talk with your friends, and how to really think about talking in a conversation without running out of things to say. By the end of this video, you'll be feeling more confident whether you're chatting with a friend, talking to a boss at work, or whether you're attending a networking event by yourself. But before we dive deep into understanding how to make a conversation really interesting and engaging, we have to really think about the basic concepts of what a conversation is. And in my mind, a conversation is really using your own words to talk to another person and then being able to respond back to them. This can be you expressing an idea, telling the other person about how you feel, giving information, any kind of exchange. A conversation is a really interactive process between two human beings. And even if you were talking to more than one person in the group, say you're talking to 3 or 4 people, you are still able to use the same method. Since the start of mankind, we have evolved from making primal sounds to develop languages with lots of different words. We have been able to speak since the age of 2 or 3 years old. We've learned to develop and expand our vocabulary, and we've had many different interactions with people. But what makes a normal conversation stand out and become a great conversation? And that is really the feeling that you receive from the other person. It's that feeling where you click and you just know that you get on with that person really well. You know the energy, you're on the same page, and you can talk about anything for hours and hours. Or it's that person who makes you think a little bit deeper, those thought-provoking topics, the ones that are very emotionally connected, and it gives you something inside. I think great conversations are based around genuine curiosity and a connection where both people are as actively involved in the conversation as one another. When you're having a conversation with someone, you really want to feel the energy, the connection between you two. But this is the one mistake that I see people making time and time again, and that is making the conversation about themselves. Now, a conversation, as you know, is around 2 people. Both people have to be interacting with that conversation. And if it's just the one person talking about themselves, then this is where the conversation gets really boring and dull. It's okay to really talk about yourself, but through small quantities and at various times throughout the conversation. You want the conversation to be like a tennis rally. You hit the ball to the other person and the other person hits the ball back. But even when two people are talking in the conversation, that doesn't necessarily make the conversation interesting. To make a conversation really interesting, you need to find some sort of common ground. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to a friend, a work colleague, or a stranger. You need to be able to find a similarity that connects both of you together. If you're talking to a friend, the common ground might be that you haven't spoken to each other for a while and you just want to catch up. If you're speaking to a work colleague, your common ground might be that you're working towards the same goals because you're working on the same project together. And if you're talking to a stranger, the common ground might just be that you're both two human beings and you're both feeling very lonely at the same time. When you focus on the shared connection, you both can gain something from the conversation. Think of it as a Venn diagram. On one side there is you, and on the other side that's the other person that you're talking to. And in the middle, that's where the magic happens, because that's the shared connection. And this is when the conversation starts to come alive. You can ask yourself these questions along the way. Why am I having this conversation with this person? What is the purpose of the conversation? Because if you know the purpose of the conversation, you can guide the conversation to make it more meaningful. The other day, I spoke to two of my friends on the phone, and one of them was nearly 3 hours, and the other phone call was 4.5 hours. We didn't really have a pre-planned agenda, but we were both on the same page in terms of our energy, in terms of what we wanted to talk about. So we talked about lots of various different topics. And for us to be able to have those long conversations, we really needed to have listened to what the other person was saying and have this genuine emotional connection. And I know just then I was talking about listening, and I think this is such an important thing for both people to do in a conversation. I think a conversation is based upon both people listening and speaking. And both of those have to be done at the same time. Two people can't be both speaking, and two people can't be both listening. In a conversation, when you are speaking, you want to be able to feel understood. And when you're listening, you want to be able to feel valued. By actively listening to what the other person has to say, you're building trust, you're building rapport, you're creating a relationship that bonds both of you together. For example, if I had a friend come and talk to me about how bad their day was, I would be open and ready to listen, to give reassurance, to give advice. What I wouldn't do is talk about my day, how bad my day was, how good my day was. It wouldn't be appropriate unless they asked me that question. We have to be able to adapt our tone, our energy, and our approach based on each individual person. Because once we've found the other person's needs and wants, we can go back to the Venn diagram, to the middle part, and that's where the conversations can become interesting and engaging. When we are focused on the other person in the conversation, this is energy, and this is where we create a flow of energy where the conversation feels natural and effortless. It's not about impressing the other person or putting all of the attention on you, but really being able to really create that shared moment on the thing that both of you want to talk about. If you're enthusiastic and you're genuinely interested about the other person in the conversation, then you're more likely to open up and you're more likely to listen to them. But if you're disengaged and you're distracted, then the conversation will be boring and eventually it will fizzle out. When I talk about energy, it's not about you being loud using your voice or being very animated using your physicality in your body. The energy really comes through the tones of your voice, thinking about what you say, the emotions that you're connected to. And it's you being fully present in the moment for you to give and receive that energy. I talked about how breathing can help you be more present in the moment, and this video here will help you do just that. When you approach conversations with the right amount of energy, you'll naturally make the conversations more enjoyable, and it will help you give a good impression of how you want the other people to remember you by. And having a conversation is more than just the words itself. We've already talked about the energy, we've talked about feeling understood, feeling valued in a conversation. But why is it that we choose to disclose some of our own personal stories to some people and not to others? And this is because when we talk to someone about our own personal stories, we really feel vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, we really need to be able to trust the other person with the information that we're giving to them. We don't want them to run away with the information and plaster it all over social media. We want them to be able to give us reassurance, to give us advice, and to be able to help us in some way. We also feel relaxed and comfortable, and we really feel at ease. There's no sense of fear or judgment or any negativity about the things that we're going to say. But if we talk to somebody at work or we're hosting a presentation, we often think that we have to talk in a certain way. We have to try and impress somebody, or we have to perform to a certain standard. And these restrictions often give us stress. They're creating and adding barriers that we don't need in terms of communication. It inhibits our natural ability to make the conversation flow. If we put our managers, our supervisors, our bosses on a different pedestal, this is where communication in the workplace really starts to disintegrate, because we see people of power in a certain way. So therefore we think we have to speak to them in a certain way. We have to use different words, different level of jargon, whilst if we are actually thinking of them on the same playing field, then we're naturally making the conversations flow. We're giving them the energy, they're giving us the energy, and everything is very simple and enjoyable. By focusing on the connection, we stop worrying about being perfect. We give ourselves a little bit of freedom to be spontaneous, and that freedom really gives us a sense of being relaxed and comfortable when we're having a conversation with another person. And that's exactly what we want. We want to feel comfortable in every conversation that we have, because once we're comfortable, we can then talk to the other person about anything and everything. But some of you might already have this question in your head already. What happens if I'm talking to a person that I don't know? If it's a complete stranger, I might know of them, they might be acquaintances, but I don't actually know them that well. Well, small talk is actually a really good way to start the conversation, because small talk really allows you to gauge the other person, whether they have the same energy, whether you're going to be comfortable talking to them for long periods of time. Small talk is like the warm-up before you go deep into a conversation. You'll know whether you'll want to carry on the conversation with the person, or if you want to move to a different person and talk about something completely different. When you're talking to people, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that is completely okay. Sometimes you don't want to have everybody who's on the same page as you with the same amount of energy, because that might be just a little bit too much. And sometimes with some people, they don't want to give out that energy, and that is also okay as well. Some people aren't ready to engage, the energy is just not there. Other people, they might have the energy, but their purpose and their goals might not align with yours in terms of what you want out of the communication. And then you've got other people who have a completely different style of communication to you. But when you engage with that one person and both your energies, your words, and your tone of voices align, then you can really influence how you can make them feel. And you never know, the people you're talking to and the people who listen to you talk, they are going to be the ones who are going to be part of your tribe. And those are the people who are going to help you out the most. And those are the people who might also be able to change your life. So now you know how to create an interesting and engaging conversation and talk to anyone at any time. Let me know in the comments below if you've had a conversation with someone that has completely changed your life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips on how to improve your communication skills. And if you haven't already, check out my video on how to prepare for a speech.